you know, welcome back. Game Changer Sports Talk, Industry Sports. All right, here we talk about what we love, what we like, and what we would like to see. Unfiltered, raw, uncut. All right, I'm your host, DeeTrynt. I'm here with the bro, Arizona Owl. All right, he repping them Cardinals, repping them Suns, repping them Diamondbacks. You feel me? All the way from Phoenix. So before we had to take our intermission, we was talking about our defensive front sevens. He
No doubt, no
elaborated
doubt.
on his 3-4 scheme. His front seven, it has three down linemen starring J.J. Watt, and he got four linebackers. No offense to the other two defensive tackles, but I just be looking at y'all linebackers though. I mean, I'm a guy who played linebacker, running back. I play every position on the front seven. I literally play every position on the front seven,
Right.
offense and defense. So I understand. But that linebacker core, bro, with Marcus Golden and Chandler Jones, and then you add Isaiah Simmons, who's virtually an extra defensive back, everything, and then Zaven Collins, who's like an athletic end in the mid.
It's a
For the next
lethal
aspect,
combination. The linebacker room is as strong as it's ever been, and it's lethal. Just plain and simple, it's lethal. Isaiah Simmons took reps this preseason at inside linebacker, outside linebacker, safety, and cornerback. And I expect Vance to deploy him in certain packages this year in his second year now that he's had a chance to get a taste of NFL game speed.
okay. But as nice as your front seven is, all right, and we do play y'all, we gonna get into that too.
Oh, that's
You
a
know what I'm
rematch
saying?
for the ages. That's a rematch for the ages. That game might be flexed to prime time.
Oh, it's going prime time. Oh, ain't no mystery. Because I expect y'all to be somewhere around 5-1. We're going to get into that too, though.
Ooh,
All right?
that's a bold take, but I can like it. I can appreciate it.
I'm saying, bro, you just talked about an offense. Who you guarding? You could say, okay, Arizona, we're going to take away your pass. We're going to dare you to run. And then they going to run Kyler and Chase and James at you.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? Like, anytime that you have multiple weapons to deploy out your backfield, you're going to be effective because you have multiple. Now, how effective they can be depends on your scheme. We haven't really gotten into schemes all like that per se, but y'all could do some things. So, as I was saying, before we took the intermission, my front seven, starring Myles Garrett, Texas A&M #1 overall pick. No, yeah, Texas A&M, right? Yeah, like Texas
Yes,
A&M.
that's correct. That's correct.
SEC. He was like one of their first stars from them joining the SEC too. All right, definitely the biggest right now for sure. But he plays our right end. He's basically our sack getter. All right, our defense, as I was saying, a 4-2-5.
I mean, he's pretty darn good at that. So, that's probably a smart role for him,
I mean, our job. I mean, he could tackle and he could, he probably ain't the best on run defense, but he could definitely. But you play guys to play to their strengths, bro. I mean, if they can evolve, you let them evolve. But that's what the other 10 guys is for. All right.
Of course.
So we have Myles Garrett. He's, undoubtedly, most likely, potentially a defensive player of the year player or soon to be, or at least candidate for sure. And now last year, all right, he had a supporting cast of Larry Ogunjobi, Sheldon Richardson, and Olivier Vernon, who only played like the back half of the season, but
Right.
he like fell into 9 sacks. Like Olivier Burton wasn't just he ain't just get 9 sacks because Olivier Burton was out here beasting. No. Myles Garrett be taking like 3 offensive linemen. He take your whole side to block him. And then, I mean, how can bro, if it's 2, maybe 3 linemen left to block, 2, 3 line. Like, I don't understand how you couldn't get more than 9 sacks. But Olivier Vernon fell into 9 sacks. Sheldon Richardson had about 3 or 4. Ogunjobi had about 2, I think 2 or 3. But that type of production is not going to cut it when you have a sack getter and a backfield disruptor. A quarterback net just bugging the fuck out you.
Bugging the fuck out you.
You know what I'm saying? For like 35, 40 minutes of a game possibly. But with a guy like that, your defense shouldn't even see the field 30 minutes of the game. All right? So
True.
we had to revamp this front seven. All right? We got Andrew Billings here. Now, Andrew Billings is a guy from Cincinnati. He's young, but he's a big body. When you think of a Pat Williams or a Kevin Williams or a Tony Saragusa, you think of Andrew Billings. He's just a little more, even Albert Hainsworth is just not as athletic, but just in the field, and so he could really clog it up. He was out of football shape when he came back from mandatory training camps, and by the time he came to training camp, though, he looked a lot better. I think he just needs his football legs under him. But we need him. He's like a new draft. He's like a new acquisition, even though we got him last year. But he set out COVID reasons, new kid. Understandable, all right?
Right.
He will be accompanied. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But he's going to be accompanied by Malik Jackson. We know Malik Jackson. I mean, your defensive coordinator know Malik Jackson. He had him when he won his Super Bowl, okay? I got to highlight, you gave a Super Bowl defensive coordinator 4 linebackers. I'm so fucking mad y'all got all them linebackers over there. God fucking damn it. All right, but look, though, that's a whole nother conversation, all right? So,
I'm just smiling about it.
But we have Malik Jackson, who's really like he's just at that point in a career where a bigger defensive lineman, defensive end can transition to defensive tackle due to his status and just how the skills depreciate a little bit. But he's still a fourth, especially for the guy that we actually got to actually be the co-star on the line. Now, a lot of people don't like this guy, okay? And having Malik Jackson really helps because, one thing we needed is maturity on this defense. And Malik Jackson brings a lot of maturity. We got him from Philly, though. Even though he started in Denver, he went to Philly. We get him from Philly, an older guy, 30 years old, but he's still young enough to real give you something, all right? But the guy that's going to play next to him, now, Malik is on a 1-year deal. I have to stress this. Malik is on a 1-year deal, 1 year, $5 million. Andrew Billings is on a 1-year deal, like one year, $3.5 million, maybe $4 million, $4.5 million, or something like that, maybe. Okay, and then we have this guy who everybody loves to say, "Oh, he don't get sacks. Oh, he don't get sacks."
Oh, I know where this is
number
going.
1 draft pick.
You talking about a former teammate of one J.J. Watt, one former number 1 overall pick.
A former teammate of one J.J. Watt. Okay, where my lighter at? This guy, okay, 8th year in the league. That put him at about what, 29. Didn't play. Well, he played last year a little bit. Didn't really put up a lot of numbers. He played 8 games, 19 tackles, 4.5 sack, 4.5.
I was rather unimpressed playing with the Seattle Seahawks with a pedigree from the Legion of Boom. I was rather unimpressed with the man's production as it stood last year.
At the same token, though, that ain't the Legion of Boom he was playing with. So we not just gonna throw them in there for dramatic effect. You know what I'm saying? We not gonna not count the fact that Seattle defense has diminished severely since the fiasco with Earl Thomas III. But we'll talk about that on another day. So
He
Jadeveon
has
comes over here
diminished.
as the complement defensive end. What people don't know is that our coach, our defensive coordinator, is a Super Bowl coach too. Now he hasn't won one. I don't believe he's won one, but he's been. All right. And he's been a big leader and a big intricate part of a defense going to the Super Bowl, being that he's, prided or labeled as a defensive backs guru or potential of. So last year he didn't really have defensive backs like that. But the point I'm bringing him up right now with Jadeveon Clowney is that he built this defensive scheme around Jadeveon Clowney's skill set specifically. All right. Him having Miles when he got here was a plus. This is why they've been so active and been trying to get Jadeveon for a couple years now. People think Jadeveon is over here to complement a sack getter to get other sacks. That's not how that's working. If that was the case, we wouldn't have got Malik Jackson. Understand, Malik Jackson is a pass rushing run stopper. Okay?
Right.
Understand. Pass rushing run stopper. So he's most likely to get you a sack, but he can stop a ball carrier in his tracks, or at least slow him up to get a guy down, which is what you need to complement a Myles Garrett. But Jadeveon Clowney is a run stopper savant when healthy, all right, who could play in or defensive tackle. So he's only on a 1-year, $10 million deal, bro. Understand how I emphasize Andrew Billings on a 1-year deal, Malik Jackson's on a 1-year deal, because if Jadeveon plays like the run stopper we need him to, he's ultimately the defensive tackle. And now we can build around that and Miles.
Okay.
Because he could be the pass rushing run stopper. But we got to see how it's going to work out, which includes why we also have Takk McKinley, a former first-round pick.
And there's the underrated name I was waiting to hear. That's the name I'm trying to see something out of this year with this team. Jadeveon, Jadeveon gonna have to do something for me. My book is out and it's been out on Jadeveon. I don't think very highly of the player. I mean, not said I don't think highly. I think highly of any player that's in the NFL because you're in the NFL. Okay, I'm not that type of person. I'm not that type of hater. But I have been firmly entrenched in Jadeveon has not met his potential camp. So that's that. He going to have to show me something. Now, this Takk McKinley signing that y'all did is probably one of the more under-the-radar signings of y'all off-season. And I think it could pay the most dividends.
Now,
what do you think?
Here we go. Again, Takk McKinley's on a one-year, $4 million deal. All right.
That's darn good for a pass rusher.
He has something to prove, and so just Jadeveon Clowney has something to prove. Right. If both of those two work out, Malik Jackson, Billings come off the books. A couple other guys come off the books, plus the cap expands. So now we virtually have Jadeveon, Miles, and Takk. And we'll probably get them like three years, Jadeveon could get 4 or 5 if he played exceptionally well, and he can conceivably get around $90 million. It wouldn't even be out the realm, and because he'll get a certain guarantee and everything else will be performance based, it won't really bog down the cap. I can actually see Takk, if he play well, coming out with at least 40. You know what I'm saying, over a 3-year span. You know what I'm saying, and but that's futuristic talk. For right now, though, we have those guys right now, and then you add our 4th round pick from Ohio State, Tommy Togiai, who's
Mm.
ultimately probably gonna be the guy that
Okay.
replaces Andrew Billings. But we also have a guy that we picked in last year's draft in the 4th round, Jordan Elliott out of Washington. And when I tell you, at the beginning of the training camp and throughout the beginning of the preseason, like the first game, I was iffy on Elliott. I thought
Okay.
he might get on the bubble. Bro, he played in that last game against the Falcons. They brought him in. When I tell you his presence was felt very first play, he blows up the guard, blows up the back and the quarterback. Next play, they try to run it. He blows it all up again, bro. He was a force to be reckoned with. He showed
Heard of
power.
that
He
course.
showed finesse. He showed technique. He showed football awareness. He showed improvement. All right. And again, I'll highlight when I was talking earlier, Chris Kiffin, Marty Kiffin's son. We all know Marty Kiffin, you know, but so I like him. We also have Malik McDowell, man. Now, Malik McDowell,
Forgot about
is a
McDowell.
guy who was out of the league. Been out the league for the last 4 years, former 2nd round pick. Used to play for the Seattle Seahawks, made his presence felt in 1 year, formerly from Michigan State. But, you know, he's coming back. He has something to prove. He's been playing and practicing and showing like a guy appreciative of the opportunity to still play in the NFL. A guy who, did time and things like that. But he is a guy who is making his presence felt. And he is going to play a tweener between uh, defensive tackle and defensive end for how we're
Okay.
going to run this front four. Uh, Also, on the backup defensive end side, we have a guy named Joe Jackson. Been in the league a couple years, former Miami U player. So you know anything about Miami U players, they are extremely athletic and is usually extremely fast, and usually have either nice strength or the ability to get very strong. Um,
Certain
one thing,
intensity in their play style.
so this guy has really shown 6'4", 278. Really a guy who will play inside and out. And, that's what we needed on this defensive line. We need depth and we need versatile guys and guys who could specifically just play run stopper solely because of the type of things you can do with Miles and Jadavian. Now, when we get to the linebacking core, this this is the weakest part of our team,
Okay.
but it's not weak. It's just the weakest part of our team, and that's debatable due to health. I mean, health is the name of the game. Football a physical sport. You already know. Linebackers got to take some of the most beatings because they play in the trenches and in the open field. And in this 4-2-5 that Joe Woods is running for the Browns, he needs a linebacker who can stop the run and play sideline to sideline, and a linebacker who can cover. So in the 2nd round this
Oh,
year,
so it sounds to me like you need a Zayvon Collins and an Isaiah Simmons. Is that my reading
well,
that?
we used to need a guy like that, but we have a guy named Jeremiah Owusu
Owusu
Koromo.
or Mo.
He is from Notre Dame, uh, linebacker, phenomenon. This guy is a linebacker slash strong safety slash nickel defensive back.
Slash.
Like
Slash.
six, like But listen, he can play linebacker. Like, he wouldn't be effective to you as a strong safety the way he is as a linebacker because he is so fast and he is deceptively strong and athletic. He is a missile, literally a heat-seeking missile. Everybody loves a heat-seeking missile. And then when you add Anthony Walker Jr., a guy that we acquired on a one-year deal from the Indianapolis Colts, he's basically a coach on the field. Still a young guy at 25, but if he performs well or outperforms what B.J. Goodson gave us last year, he's a guy who can earn, a multi-year deal as well. Those two guys are accompanied by former late-round pick Mac Wilson, a guy out of Alabama who was the leader of that defense at one time. He battled some injuries last year, but this year he's fully healthy and he's arguably and maybe undoubtedly been the defensive star of our training camp. So he's going to play. He's a little nicked up right now, but I don't really think he nicked up. I just think that, the Browns playing it safe. We need everybody for Kansas City, which is our opening game, and Kansas City ain't going to come to play. You know what I'm saying? They going to come to try to make a statement. We going to be ready for it.
That's an opener challenge right there.
That's a fact. So we also follow up with Sione Takitaki. Actually, Sione Takitaki was like a top 15 rated run stopper last year, according to PFF.
Okay.
But he's a young guy who really is emerged. I like him and Mac Wilson, because both of them can either start or play special teams, but they're still young and growing, so they haven't even reached their max potential yet at 25 and 26 respectively. We also have a guy, Malcolm Smith, veteran guy, former Super Bowl MVP with the Seahawks and all that, and he's been a good guy for us. He played very well for us last year as a coverage linebacker who could tackle. He's been a good mentor. I could see him elevating at some point to be a linebackers coach, whether it be for us or somebody else. But right now, he's still good playing and good contributing. We also have a guy in Tony Fields, the third, a guy who was at West Virginia, played at Arizona State actually too. Now he is going to be a depth piece for us. I believe he's on the IR for now. I got to recheck that. He did have some injury concerns coming in with his foot and mandatory mini camps, but he came back and played in the last preseason game. It looked fairly decent, but you didn't really get to see a lot of extended time. But if not, we got some guys, on the practice squad we can bring up. That ain't gonna be no problem. As far as our front
The
seven
practice
goes,
squad flex options this year give teams a lot of flexibility. I'm glad that they decided to keep that even after the COVID year, so you can flex up to 3 players off your roster at any given week, or off the practice squad on your roster at any given week. I think that gives teams a lot of flexibility, and I think that might be something that might even be a permanent fixture in the NFL, given how injuries they happen. Like, they just happen. They're part of the game. And I think it's something that gives teams a lot of flexibility. So I'm really excited about that they've continued that program here.
and I like the fact, now, understand, if you watch it, we still in the segment of who we talking about, all right? We talking about our Cleveland Browns, for me, dog pound representing, what I'm saying, and these Arizona Cardinals, all right? AFC North and NFC West, respectively, all right? And, we just breaking down the 53-man roster cuts, who was on our team, why they on our team, things like that when it comes to, our offenses and what we did. You can catch the first video. It's already shared, YouTube, Facebook, Industry Sports, and also you'll see our social media strolling down on the bottom. You can also, make sure you follow us and all that. But you can catch the first video when we talk about the offense and just the offensive players and who's on them. Now we're talking about the defense. Arizona Al, he's went over his front seven in his 3-4. Oz went over our front seven in our 4-2-5. Now we'll get on these secondaries, man. You got a nice guy, your secondary. um, Buda Baker. I don't mean to take that from you. You feel me? I like Buda though, man. I'm giving you mad shots as Buda as a safety. I love Buda, bro. All
I
right.
mean, it's hard not to love Buda Baker, man. Formerly number 32, now number 3. Just changed his number this year.
Ooh,
One of the top safeties in the NFL, bro. Okay, and I know the interception numbers aren't there. I know that's one of the things everybody want to talk about. He don't get no interceptions. He don't get no interceptions. He is a tackling machine
that's a
with a
fact.
secondary that has been a little bit on the hesitant side to tackle in the past 3 to 5 years. That's a constant in my defensive backfield is Buda Baker, somebody who's going to lay the wood down when it's necessary and get that play stop when it's good. That being said, as I've said before, and I brought this up in our previous video, the secondary is thin this year. Now, I know you speak on your linebacker core as being the weak link of your roster, but it's not weak. But it's not that weak. Well, I'll put it out there that as it stands right now, the secondary of the Arizona Cardinals is the weak link of the roster, specifically the cornerback room, and it is a legitimate weakness. This is something that is exploitable for the Arizona Cardinals as it stands. As I mentioned at the beginning of my defensive segment, obviously we have Robert Alford is going to be the starting cornerback here for the Arizona Cardinals this year after Malcolm Butler's quick and recent retirement. Robert Alford has not played a game since 2018. Opposite him on the other side, we will have Marco Wilson, a fourth-round rookie out of the University of Florida. In his last collegiate year, he put up 12 pass breakups, 4 interceptions, and 3 forced fumbles. One of those went for a score, in addition to Byron Murphy in the slot. Now, at safety, we have obviously Buda Baker, one of the best. We're going to follow that up with the Thompson twins, Jalen and Jalen and Marshall. And then finally round that off with what I expected after a strong preseason showing was going to be Charles Washington, but that ended up being incorrect as he was cut. And the final safety in the room is in fact Charles Washington. So there we go. I was correct.
Okay.
So he did end up making the roster. Looks to me that means that Chris Banjo, who was the other safety that was having an excellent preseason with us and also had a starter for us in the last 2 seasons, was cut, although it does appear that he made the practice squad. So that's good news. So the safety position is very, very strong. Obviously, you have Buda Baker leading the way with Charles Washington, and then the Thompson twins, both of whom are in their 3rd year respectively, and they've been playing behind Buda the entire time. So expect good things from them. Solid rotation there. Obviously, the cornerback room is thin and young, fairly inexperienced. Obviously, behind Byron Murphy and Robert Alford, I mentioned Marco Wilson. And we also have Tay Galan, who was a 6th-round rookie for us this year, and a young player by the name of Luke Barku, who we picked up off the Jacksonville practice squad last week.
Okay.
So the secondary is the exploitable element of this team. That being said, I spoke on the quality depth and the certain versatility of the front 7, which is going to allow the defense to thrive and hopefully take the pressure off of this young and inexperienced secondary and allow the defense to come up with stops. So long and short of it, the defense for the Arizona Cardinals, most specifically the front 7, has to thrive this year. Plain and simple.
Okay. So, over here in these Cleveland Browns, man, our secondary is healthy. If playing up to potential, could arguably be I'm going to go top 8.
Okay.
Top 8. I think it could go top 5. but I'm gonna just say top 8, and I'm gonna say top 5 because it's a 17-game season. All right, but our secondary play is outstanding. Now, as I stated before, we went 10 defensive backs. All right, we
Mm-hmm.
went 6 in the cornerback room and 4 in the safety room. Now, as I was saying, in our 4-2-5, all right, you play 5 defensive backs. So having 10 defensive backs does sound adequate, being that you need a backup for each starter. All right.
Right.
Now, again, with this front office and these free agent acquisitions, man, and their drafting, right? First round pick, number 4 overall, inherited, this regime inherited, came out right behind Baker Mayfield. Denzel Ward, young rising superstar in this league, about to be up for a contract extension. Don't worry, he gonna get his money. He ain't leaving Cleveland. Don't even worry about that. All right. That's why they was just letting him chill out, so he'll be ready for the first game of the season, and probably somewhere around week 6, 5, 6. You will hear that news pop. But whatever the case,
One of the top corners in the league right now, bar none.
you know what I'm saying? Bar none. All right. Now, who is his running mates? All right. We have one LSU guy. All right. That's why I say we must be LS after you. All right. So we have Greedy Williams. All right. Greedy
Oh,
was
greedy.
out last
Now
year.
that's the name that makes me jealous.
Greedy was out last year. He had nerve damage that basically left him with no feeling in his shoulder. So he had to heal. You know, they thought it was one thing, but it wasn't. When they finally found it out, you know, they shut him down for the season. He could have probably returned in the playoffs, but you know, I think this front office has done a good job of putting players' health first in the game second. Um, you know, as long as he's available, he could play. But the thing is to make sure he's available. He's been fairly healthy. Well, he's been really healthy the whole offseason. They've just been precautious with him. So ain't nothing wrong with that. He will be joined by Troy Hill playing nickelback.
Okay, Troy Hill.
Troy Hill, I think Arizona I will be very familiar with him, being that he came over from a Rams defense who last
Yeah.
year was rated number 1. Um, he is a guy who is going to basically lock down your slot, if not agitate him to the point where somebody else can help and make a play.
He is
He
mighty good at agitation, let me tell you.
he is also an Ohio native, so he is coming home. He got a 4-year deal for about $24 million. He'll be here for a minute. We also drafted with our number 1 pick this year, Greg Newsome II out of the Big Ten Northwestern, a
Yep.
guy who only played 9 games last year, but did not allow a catch on 3rd or 4th down. And I think he only allowed 9 completed passes the whole season.
9 completed passes in 9 games. That means he's shutting down your receiver to the tune of 1 reception per game. Sounds mighty
uh,
nice to me.
and he's only 20 years old. So we have him locked up for the next 5. And also, they'll be joined by one MJ Stewart, a former second-round pick, a guy who really made plays for us last year, especially in the back end of the season. I thought he was going to find a way to stay on the team, and another reason why we was able to let Cedric Redwine go is because he's playing a dual role of cornerback and safety. We also have a guy, A.J. Green, that we picked up undrafted last year from Oklahoma State, 6'2" guy. Really can I think he could play corner and safety, but he's definitely a big outside guy. So you know, having him, Greedy, and Greg gives us a lot of length to play against big receivers and options to play against big receivers. And then Troy Hill and Denzel Ward with MJ Stewart, you know, 5'10", 5'11" guys, 6-foot guys who can check the shorter receivers, nifty, you know, so that gives us a lot of versatility in this 4-2-5, where we're basically looking to attack and play matchup. this safety room. Okay. So this safety room features John Johnson III,
Oh,
a guy
another
who
terror for the Arizona Cardinals.
rated the best safety in the league last year. He's only 25. We got him on a 3-year, $33 million deal. So he's going to be here for a minute. All right. We're going to pair him up with one Ronnie Harrison Jr., a guy that we
Mm.
traded for from the Jaguars in like week 3 last year. Played really good for us last year. Had a little bit of injury concerns, hamstrings, things like that. Wasn't nothing too crazy. But he's been fully healthy this year. We're going to follow that up with one Grant Delpit, a guy we got in the second round last year, but went down with a bad Achilles injury in training camp. But he's had time to heal. He was held out from a quote unquote hamstring injury. But I think they just preserving him, being cautious. You know, Achilles injury is a big injury. It's a lot mental too. So you want to make sure a guy's fully ready to play, and you know, holding him out for a year plus and letting him condition and build his body up, uh, and then allowing him to, you know, come out and play in a big game, or even if they want to like kind of dress him but use him sparingly in the first game and let him play in the second game. However the case though, he provides a lot of versatility. A guy who could play safety, who could play a little linebacker and um, slot corner, or even outside because he has that type of natural ability and talents.
Mm-hmm.
Safety guy. So, and then we also have one Richard LeCount, a guy who I elaborated on earlier. So that is our 10 player defensive back room. Like I say before, man, I believe these guys go top 8. One thing people need to know, you know, guys going to play special teams. You know, most guys on defense is probably going to play special teams, in my opinion. Malik McDowell, uh, Tony Fields, Sione Takitaki, or Mac Wilson, depending on, you know, how the depth go. Richard LeCount, AJ Green, MJ Stewart, you know, guys like that. You might get an offensive lineman or two on there. And all of these guys could fill in and play, you know, stop in, starter minutes, if not start for a series of games if need to be. So I feel like, you know, when they say the Browns have the deepest and arguably the most talented roster in the league, you know, I am so with that. And, you know, in saying that, let's get into predictions for the season. Uh, you know, a little bit of predictions for the divisions, and then we're gonna break into these stat guides and these game changers of the season. All right, game changers of the season is just gonna be guys so we feel like might put up certain numbers, could put up certain numbers. You know, we may throw some stats out there, we may not. But stat guides, we gonna definitely throw some stats out there for sure. We might just merge them for real, for real. So when it comes to your Arizona Cardinals, my guy, all right, where do you see them ultimately ending the season as record in the 17-game season? How far do you think they can go in these playoffs? Who will be the guys that you think will most contribute to winning on your team? And who gonna be the offensive, defensive stat leaders on your team?
All right, well, that's a lot to break down, my man. So I'm going to start with a bit of a two-pronged approach to my answer here, insofar as to say that my main prediction for the Arizona Cardinals as it stands this year is an 11-6 record for a 17-game season, good for the 5th seed in the NFC. Now, I say that with a certain – I don't like to put asterisks by my information, but I kind of have to say that this year because – the way that the Cardinals and the San Francisco 49ers are constructed as it stands right here could make for a very, very interesting season in the NFC West. Reason being is because obviously I think the Rams are the favorite, and I expect the Rams to be the 2 seed in the NFC behind the Buccaneers and take the West this year behind Matthew Stafford's arm and Sean McVay's continued quality coaching acumen. In my opinion, Sean McVay is the best coach in the NFC West. I don't really think that there's an argument there at the moment. even though he doesn't always necessarily have the best team in the NFC West, and that's fair respect to the Seattle Seahawks. He has been by far and away the best coach in the division since his arrival, and has been very difficult on the Arizona Cardinals, who are 0-8 against the LA Rams since Sean McVay's arrival. So trust unknown. Because I like the Cardinals and the continuity of Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, and Chase Edmonds, I have them listed as 11-6 for the number 2 seed, or for the second place in the NFC West and the 5th seed overall in the NFC. Now, that being said, I could easily see a scenario where the San Francisco 49ers finish with the exact same record and we finish with a 10-7 and we flip. Us being the 3 seed in the NFC West, and that would amount to probably a 6 or a 7 seed in the NFC total. And then the San Francisco 49ers taking the 5 seed with 11-6. I think a lot of the San Francisco 49ers success hinges strongly on Jimmy Garoppolo, not Trey Lance. Point of fact is, Jimmy Garoppolo is under contract for 2 more years, and the San Francisco 49ers brass has made it abundantly clear that he is their week 1 starter, and he is the veteran starter, which tells me, you've been in this business long enough to know, Jimmy is the starter until he's not good enough to be it anymore. Now, that also tells me that Mr. Garoppolo is on a very, very short leash. The length of the leash depends on his success, and if they pull him quick, then I do not see the San Francisco 49ers, even with the easiest strength of schedule in the division, I do not see them winning more than 10 games with Trey Lance at the helm.
But with Jimmy Garoppolo, you could see them winning 11 more or more.
Because continuity matters to me.
That's highly understandable. Okay. So
this
again,
is also Go ahead. No, you go ahead first, bro.
I was about to say, man, you don't got no love for Seattle.
Well, no, listen. Now, I'm sure most people would consider it a hot take for me to have Seattle finishing 4th when they have yet to do so in the Pete Carroll era, and that's fair. I am going off the fact that they have the second most difficult strength of schedule in the NFC West, but it is almost identical to that of the LA Rams, who have the most difficult schedule. I consider this to be a down year for the Seattle Seahawks, which still, for me, has them at 8-9 for the season and finishing 4th place. I expect a lot of these games to be close. I expect a lot of their losses to be close. And the reason that I say this is because Seattle's depth has been tested and tested and tested and tested over the course of the last 4 years, and they've gotten thinner and thinner at certain position groups, to the point that their pass rush was so ineffective last year that they were lining Jamal Adams up at pass rusher in order to generate some semblance of sacks. I know that the Seattle Seahawks are excellent at patching holes and making things work. I am aware that Russell Wilson is still one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL today. And as long as Russell Wilson is healthy and starting for the Seattle Seahawks, they are going to win games. I just believe that this is the year where there's too many holes to patch, and it finally catches up to them.
So my follow question to that is there a scenario where you could see the Cardinals finish either first in the division or last in the division?
I cannot see a scenario in which we finish first place. I can easily, given that we have the second easiest strength of schedule in the division, but we're all clustered together in terms of strength all four teams. So there's not a lot of the real variance is the 49ers compared to the rest of us. They really have a much easier strength of schedule comparatively to the rest of the division. A lot of people that's why they're giving the Niners the edge in the division this year. Given our strength of schedule, given I haven't covered it here, my typical outspoken opinions on Cliff Kingsbury, yes, I could easily see a scenario in which we finish last in the division on a similar trajectory, an 8-9 or a 7-10.
Okay.
Let me end that statement before you get started by saying that a fourth place finish and one win less than last year, because we ended up finishing 8-8 last year. A fourth place finish and 7 wins is a disaster scenario for the Arizona Cardinals, and that should require a house cleaning if that were to occur.
But you don't see that highly being likely.
I don't, because I think the talent on the roster is too deep for us to allow. I think the talent on the roster is too deep. I think the competitive nature of the stars on the roster is too strong to allow us to lose more games than we did last year.
I like that analysis, man. I appreciate the breakdown. Definitely appreciate you bringing that, showing our viewers, what's going on in Arizona. I don't think a lot of people will be able to do that, and a lot of people don't go out their way to highlight the things about Arizona that need to be highlighted, all right?
So shout out to Nate Burleson on the NFL Network and ESPN. He does an excellent job of covering Cardinals-related such items, but he's probably one of the only national media guys that does, so just want to make sure I give a shout to him. He's always on one.
I will say a few things in response to your division. And my personal take off the analysis and just what I know. It seems like whoever can play action pass has the best chance of winning the division from an offensive standpoint. On the defensive side, whoever can create the most turnovers. Because, you could argue the Rams got the best defense, but we got two of their most important pieces, so I don't know how that's going to work. On top of that, they got Donald and Ramsey, bro, so they always, you know what I'm saying? Like, that goes without saying.
But losing two key safeties when pass rush is such a key component of their defense in what it is, it's a fair suggestion to think that the Rams defense might take a step back this year.
You know what I'm saying? And then, y'all got a young up-and-coming defense. I don't even know if Seattle has a defense. I ain't going to even hold you. And then,
this is where I speak on their patches and the holes. They have a handful of stars on defense. Obviously, they have Jamal Adams. Shaquem Griffin is developing into a very, very good cover cornerback. Obviously, Bobby Wagner is the final remaining stalwart.
Wait. They got the other brother, because the one brother went to Jacksonville, right?
Yes, it's Shaquille.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to be sure they brought him back, though, so that's what's up.
Yes. So Shaquille Griffin is the one in Seattle. Shaquem is the one in Jacksonville. Shaquille is rounding out into a very, very talented cover corner. And obviously you still have Bobby Wagner rounding out the linebacker core, the last remaining stalwart from the Legion of Boom. Starting to lose a step in the speed as it's been. He's not exactly the sideline roamer that he used to be, but with the lack of athleticism in the past few years, obviously comes the leadership, the command of the defense. He's the on-field general, really, in the space that Earl Thomas left. And I think him and Jamal pair well together. But outside of those three, you have a lot of untested young players and veterans who failed to latch on in other places that they've taken chances on. And after a while, it starts to wear on what you're capable of.
No, that's a fact. I like that. I like the way you articulate and break the game down, man. All right? You know what I'm saying?
I appreciate that.
You know what I'm saying? I'm a little gutter with it, all right? I can articulate when I need to, but you bring a consistency, and I can appreciate that. So, I like that breakdown of the West. My only other questions would be, who do you think on your team is will be, what we doing? What Kyler Murray doing in the passing game? All right, and what's gonna be the sack rate of your defense? What's gonna be the sack numbers of your defense? Because that's really the most important. Your passing game over there and your defense, and your sack ability.
Absolutely. So we're talking about the offensive passing game. Kyler's been really, really solid in his first 2 years, solid and consistent in terms of his production. So at this point, I really only expect that to continue in an upward trend, as has been the case with pretty much every good first-round quarterback in the past few years. So last year, he threw for just shy of 4,000 passing yards and had 26 total touchdowns to 12 interceptions. So considering an upward trajectory, I see no reason that Kyler Murray shouldn't throw for 4,000 at bare minimum. But I think it's the running that's going to create the edge for the offense, even more so than its passing acumen. So I'm thinking probably about 4,200 yards through the air, about 12 touchdowns, 13 touchdowns. But I'm expecting at least a dozen touchdowns on the ground for him. I really think that he is going to utilize his scamper ability to be that X-factor running piece in the offense, similar to how Lamar Jackson is utilized in Baltimore. And I think that's going to probably net him an increase in his rushing yards.
So what D-Hop and AJ doing?
Hop is probably going to go for about 600 to 800 receiving yards, and I would say about 5 to 8 touchdowns, because he's going to be the dude who's clamped up all the time, and he's going to be the one that they're going to be looking for on defense to hunt to make sure that he's not going to eat, which is going to leave A.J. Green open to eat. And eat well, I do believe he shall. I'm looking at A.J. Green to maybe he's not going to quite scratch 1,000 yards as the second option on a high-octane offense, but I'm expecting 675 to maybe 750 yards with 8 to 10 touchdowns for A.J. Green, and talk on comeback player of the year status for the man. Bro, I really think he's going to be a crucial part of this offense. I really think people are sleeping on his capability.
Hold on. D-Hop, you being disrespectful. Now, if you'd have said like 1,100, I'd have gave you that. Because you can't, in my opinion, you can't say Kyler going to throw for 42 and then say they go for less than that. Who getting the other 2,000 yards?
Rondale Moore and Chase Edmonds.
And Christian Kirk?
And Christian Kirk, yes.
So you saying you owe your receiver?
No, because listen, that's where I'm going with it. Because listen, Cliff Kingsbury finally has 4 solid receivers to run his 10 sets. Actually be able to run his 10 sets. He's got 4 receivers that are lethal at any point on the field that he can put out there at the same time with Hopkins, Green, Moore, and Kirk. Now, when you have
go ahead.
Now, when you have an X-factor running back like Chase Edmonds, who's always been better in the passing game than the running game, now leading the backfield, you're talking about a running back who's probably going to have more receiving yards than actual yards on the ground, because Connor's going to be used for those ground yards in the short game. Your 3rd and short, your 4th and 1, your goal line situations. We're not going to necessarily be going to Chase for them. So because of that, you're going to take them chunk yardages away from Chase, and he's always been a more core component of the passing game. And Kyler has great rapport with him in that regard too. And for all the things that Cliff loved to do, he loves his screens. The 2 players that execute the screens and the jet sweeps on this team that Cliff Kingsbury loved to do are Christian Kirk and Chase Edmonds. These two gentlemen right here are my X factors for this offense in order to thrive. Now, okay, I might have been a little bit. I said under 1,000 for D-Hop, and I don't think he's ever done under 1,000. So maybe that was a touch excessive and a bit of
That's
a
what
brain.
I said. You just said 11. All right, I would have gave D-Hop. Like, I still, even two people can't guard him, bro. D-Hop in this offense, if Kyler going to throw for 4,200, D-Hop going to have to be flirting with 1,500. Because he got A.J. Green, him, flirting with, 12, 14 touchdowns, that ain't unrealistic to me. A.J. Green coming back on a bounce back year, doing anything from 11 to 8 to 10 touchdowns. I thought 8 to 10 touchdowns was a great assessment. But I got to give him at least a rack to 11. You know what I'm saying? But I'm giving D-Hop the range of 11 to 14, and I'm gonna give A.J. Green I'm gonna give him a rack to 1,200. But I'm definitely giving both of them the ability to get double digit touchdowns. I think Christian Kirk will be used more, but I think Rondale Moore will give you more touchdowns in the return game, which I think is really the X factor piece too for y'all. I do like the Christian Kirk and Chase Edmonds piece because I think if both of them thrive, it makes the other two even more unguardable, and that makes a lot of sense.
I think
And
Edmonds and Kirk are both capable of 800 yards receiving this year, easily.
you know what I'm saying? So if you're saying it's going to be spreaded around, it's not unrealistic for Kyler to throw for 5,000 with that offense. I've seen people do it with less. So, I ain't knocking that. All right. So we're going to hurry up and get to my Browns right quick, and then we're going to get up out of here, all right?
Yeah.
With these Browns, man, this offense got the number one everything, bro. This offense this year is going to be unpredictable because we can run unlimited sets and unlimited formations for unlimited reasons. Odell and Jarvis can throw the ball and run the ball. Plus, you add what Chubb and Hunt can do. I foresee now the X factors on this team are Odell because he's recovering from the injury. Kareem Hunt because we already know what they're gonna try to do to Chubb, which is gonna leave Hunt open. Donovan Peoples-Jones is gonna probably be a most improved player candidate. But our special teams is gonna really hurt the league. All right. With Anthony Schwartz and Demetric Felton, I say around it could be week 7. It could be after the game with y'all, after they, see how Rondale Moore act a fool. You know what I'm saying? Because I do like him. But I think we got two versions of him on our
Okay.
roster with Demetric Felton and Anthony Schwartz. So I feel like Schwartz could really hit home on the kickoffs, and Felton could hit more home on the punt returns. And that'll really be more sensible for this offense, especially if you want to use them in isolated situations on the offense. Because we have Donovan Peoples-Jones and Rashard Higgins, that gives us an opportunity to run more plays, giving Odell or Jarvis the chance to run or throw the ball in option plays. Uh, Kareem Hunt and Chubb gonna do what they do. I really expect Baker to jump in accuracy first. I believe his completion accuracy was up to 62.9 last year. I believe he can easily jump to 75 or 77% this year if the offense thrives like it should or is expected. If it doesn't, in the average amount, he should still be flirting with 70 at least. Anything less than that, unless circumstances shit happens in the NFL, but we know how it look in consistency. I think would be because you got too many people that all you got to do is quick throw, and then since he's already accurate, deep field plays down the field should be no problem. The fact that we have the running game that we have will definitely add to the fact that our play action game is one of the best in the league, if not the best in the league. And having a Odell healthy with a Jarvis Landry healthy, whatever the case. So I could easily see Chubb doing 1,000 yards on the ground and flirting with 400 yards and receiving. Um, at minimal 150 yards in receiving, just because everybody else gonna be going crazy, or certain people gonna be going crazy. But I don't think he gonna be much needed in the pass game, but his screen game being effective is gonna really help out. Uh, Kareem Hunt, I could easily see doing, 850, 900. I wouldn't be surprised if he flirts with 1,000, but I really more see him doing more of a 9-6 type of thing. I believe both of them will get double-digit touchdowns this year behind that offensive line. You know what I'm saying? So that's easy. I can even see Baker being able to sneak in 2 or 3, maybe even 4 quarterback sneaks for touchdowns, just on the strength of how teams will play us, knowing that we have so many weapons. Um, I could easily, for Jarvis and Odell, I expect nothing less than either one of them to get 1,200 yards receiving. I expect nothing less than 8 touchdowns apiece. I actually could see Odell if he comes back like I think, I can actually see him flirting with 15 touchdowns, because I really feel like this offense is just going to excel. There's going to be days where they don't do a lot, but on the days that they get explosive, it's going to be explosive. I feel like this offense could potentially break the record for offensive points in a season. That I don't think that is, out the question. It just depends on how fast they click, and how they, how much the defense get them the ball back.
That's
Um,
still Peyton Manning's record?
uh, no, that's the Vikings.
Mahomes.
The
Say
Vikings.
that, say that.
Randy Moss and Chris Carter, Randall Cunningham, or it might have been Dante Culpepper. It was one of them. But also, I could see Donovan Peoples-Jones sneaking in there with about 700 receiving yards. I could see Hooper and Njoku going for at least 500 receiving yards apiece. I expect them to be big factors in the red zone, especially from 18 and under. Uh, I can easily see both of them having 5+ touchdowns. I don't think that's out of the question, especially if Baker can show his accuracy with his gunslinging and his carefulness. Uh, Listen, I think Baker should get nothing less than 4,500, but 5,000 passing yards is definitely what he should be able to get. Not because he's slinging it everywhere, because we should lead the yard in rack. We should lead the league in rack. Period. All right, that is the staple. The key is going to be stopping us from getting the ball in the first place. But this is where
Mm-hmm.
Baker being smart, being able to audible, being able to pump fake, and then hit on them and on them random, oh, I caught you slipping plays. Because if he can get either one of these weapons the ball, they can break it home. So Baker, I ain't putting no pressure on you, but I'm saying, bro, year 2 of this offense, flirting with 50 touchdowns ain't unreasonable, bro. 5,000 passing yards is not unreasonable. 75% completion percentage is not unreasonable, bro. I'm sorry. I don't think it is. Not with 17 games. I just don't think it is. Not with these weapons.
That's
And
bold.
adding the fact that that defense will be a top 10 defense and will be tops in sacks and turnover creation.
Okay, I hear it. I hear it. I like it. I like it. I like it's
My
bold. I like the
prediction for
confidence. I
them,
like the confidence.
I think the Baltimore Ravens will be the team that regresses this year.
Okay.
Uh, Sorry to say, I think there's too many questions on the offensive line and two inconsistencies with the receiving usage that I could easily see Baltimore going 10-7 and missing the playoffs.
Well, the loss of
But
J.K. Dobbins hurts a lot as well. Losing J.K. Dobbins for the year and the ACL tear is a big, big loss for their offense. So if you want to point to a certain point of regression, that might be where you look first is the running game.
I got them at 10-7 at least. But I think they're gonna go 10-7. They might go 9-8. I don't think that's unreasonable, but I think they're gonna go 10-7. Uh, I give the Bengals probably 6-11, maybe even 7-10. Uh, I think around like week 9, Chase gonna turn up. It's just gonna take him a little second, but I think before that he gonna make plays. But I think at the end of the season he gonna turn up. I think Tyler Boyd is gonna really be good, but I'm questionable on how T. Higgins is gonna be able to be a mismatch because he lacks top end speed. But his
Okay.
possession ability should be nice. I don't know what they're gonna do with the tight ends, but I expect Mixon to have a bounce back year. He might even run for 1,200, maybe even 1,400 if he healthy the whole season. Um, uh, as far as the Steelers, I feel like the Steelers actually, I think the Steelers are actually a threat. Um, they do have holes in the secondary that can be exploited, at least by the Browns and anybody with a good receiving core. So in that regard, I could easily see them going 12-6, or even 11-6, or even 10-7. But if they get hot, bro, they can probably win 12 games for sure. But I really just got them at 11-6. The Browns, I expect the Browns to finish first in the division. I really don't really expect things, but I expect them to finish first in the division, at least 12 wins. But I'm actually giving them 13-4 with the possibility of going 14-2 if they start off hot. But I'm giving them 13-4. I think that's enough to at least get second in the conference, if not first, depending on how they come out week 1. Uh, so that's where I stand with the Browns, with the 53-man roster. This is where Arizona Owl sits with the Cardinals, for their 53-man cutting projection for the seasons. And you got any final thoughts, Al, before we get up out of here?
Man, I'm just excited to see what the season holds. I've really and truly, bro, like my information is, I'm just a casual fan, bro. I don't try to take this very, very serious and everything like that. I'm just speaking my thoughts and whatnot. But I really got to put it out there that this is not only a make or break season for Cliff Kingsbury, but this is also, I'm not sure if I remember a season for the Arizona Cardinals that is more of a peak or valley situation. Insofar as that this team has the talent on paper to be one of the top seeds in the NFC. And yet there's so many questions surrounding the coaching staff, the front office, certain other elements of this team that, as I explained to you, I could very easily see a team that finishes last place in the division and a disaster scenario. And I don't think I've been in a situation for this and for a Cardinals team in a very, very long time. And it's volatile, to say the least. But I'm ready to get the season started and see what we got going and just see what happens, because I'm kind of just ready to ride by the seat of my pants on this one a little bit,
Okay, it should be a fun ride, my guy. And correction, I meant to say 14-3, possibly.
I
Um,
heard you.
I said 14-2, but I meant to say 14-3. Uh, but Al, it's been a pleasure rapping with you today about these sports. We shall be back again talking basketball. He's gonna talk his Phoenix Suns. I'm gonna talk my Cleveland Cavaliers. Preseason is upcoming. Season starts the beginning of October. So we Labor Day weekend right now. So it's been a pleasure rapping with y'all. Thank you for tuning in to Game Changer Sports Talk in the Street in the Street Sports Podcast. I'm DeeTrynt along with Arizona Owl today, man, and we gonna get up with y'all later, man.
Much obliged. Thank y'all for having me. Appreciate y'all, man. Have a good one.